Even if Casa would totally revoke my access, I can still successfully sign and send transactions. I'm curious to see what happens when we hit emergency lockdown. Even though the account is locked, we control the quorum of the keys, so have signed the transaction anyway. So in my previous video here, I ran through how you would just use Casa normally. That is, using their software and just using it as a normal user. It's a fantastic place to start if you are new to Multisig. One of the really powerful things about Casa is that the way they have implemented their Multisig wallet means that you can use readily available open source Bitcoin wallet software to recreate the wallet and to operate it even without any of Casa's software. What I'd like to run through now is how you would recreate the Multisig wallet from Casa using your own wallet software. And this is important for two reasons. Firstly, it allows you to mitigate one of the major shortfalls of Casa, which is address verification. Secondly, it'll help you to understand the sovereign recovery process. So this is the process you would need if Casa were to just disappear tomorrow. Finally, being able to understand and reproduce the Multisig wallet that Casa have used should help you to get familiar with the tools and processes for creating your own Multisig wallet if you decide at some point in the future that you would like to do a DIY Multi-Sig setup. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop for content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So let's get cracking. All right, so the first thing we'll run through is creating a watch-only wallet in Electrum. Let's call it PR5 watch only. So we're going to say we have a multi-signature wallet. We're going to say there are 5 co-signers and we want 3. Just because that's what this is. This is just following the bouncing ball in the Casa doco. Except now instead of saying we have seeds, we're going to say use master key. And we can just put in the master keys. So we've got the one from the mobile. And we'll add them, go through and just add them for all of them. There we go. Don't worry about setting a password. And there we go. We can actually see the wallet now in Electrum. We can also verify all of the receive addresses, and we've also got another set of backups of all of the Xpubs. Okay, so we've got our watch-only wallet, but what if we want to have a fully functional copy of the wallet? And to demo that, we'll actually use Sparrow. Just because it plays nicely with the transactions that we get from Casa, it plays nicely with all of the hardware wallets that I'm using in my multi-sig setup, and it also works nicely with either your own local node or just connecting to online public nodes. And it does have a much nicer interface for this sort of thing than Electrum. So we're just going to say file new wallet. And we'll just call this Casa 3 of 5 rotation 2. We'll just say create wallet. Okay, so the first thing we want to say, we want multi-sig. We want P2H SegWit, which is what Casa uses. And we have 5 signers and we want 3. And now we just go about adding in all of the different key stores. All right, so basically what we're going to do is we'll just go through and get all of the public keys. We'll get them from the app, including all the fingerprints. So we'll just start with mobile. We'll put in the fingerprint from there. And we'll just pull the derivation path and the extended public key from there. That matches what we have in the app. So we'll move on to the recovery key. That there. Stick the derivation path in. The fingerprint is actually not available in the app, but we'll need to include that if we want to be able to import that into something like a Coldcard. So I'll show you how to get that master fingerprint later for the recovery key. Key store number 3, that's going to be our office key. So that is the Trezor. So we'll connect our Trezor up. So for the Trezor, we're going to say we have a connected hardware wallet. And we'll just say scan. We have the Trezor connected. If you've set a pin on your Trezor, you'll need to unlock it at this point, but I don't have a pin on here just to speed things up for the demo. Now, what we're going to have to do is we're going to say show derivation. Now, if we look at the public keys in the app, we can see the derivation path is the same as the one that we had for the others. And the important thing to note here is that the derivation path in the Casa app is not hardened. You'll notice that by default, your Trezor actually has these apostrophes in here for some of the numbers, and that's actually not what we want. So for the Casa one, we just need to use it exactly as it's written from the sovereign recovery email. And it'll say import custom derivation. There we go. And we can see that this matches what we see in the app, so we can move on to our next one. So we'll just call that work. And we'll move on to key store 4 as we go around in the circle. So one from the safe. In terms of adding the Coldcard and the Keystone into Sparrow, there are two ways that we can do this. We can craft, custom files to be the ones that Sparrow wants us to import, or we can just add them as watch-only signers. And doing that is not a problem. Sparrow will still let us save the PSBT files that can be signed by those devices. So let's say view public keys, BTC account. Okay, so this is the public key. So this is for our Coldcard. The issue with the Coldcard and the Keystone is that Casa does multisig on a non-standard derivation path. So it's actually not really straightforward to get the configuration file we need out of the Coldcard. The easiest thing to do is to plug it in via USB, but just for the sake of completeness, I'll show you how to do it without plugging it in at all. Now for Coldcards and Keystones, the other option is to take these files that we exported right back at the beginning and actually use them with Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool. So while you can use Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool to do things like go from seed to addresses and things like that, that's actually not what we're going to use it for in this instance. What we are going to do is we are going to paste the master public key into this BIP32 root key field. This process is the same for both a Keystone and a Coldcard, but I'll just use a Keystone for this demo. So if I go into Home, which was my Keystone one, I say View Public Keys and go into BTC account, that is the public key and the derivation path there. Now the other way that I can get that, let's say I lost access to this Casa app, but I still had my Keystone, is I can take this public key here and put it into the BIP32 root key field in Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool. It's giving us an error here. We don't have to worry about that for now. That'll go away in a second. We're going to click on the BIP141 tab, and we're going to change this derivation path here to be the derivation path from the sovereign recovery email. And in this case, it is M49002. And you can see once I've done that, that error message went away. And we want to select this fourth option here, because this is the type that we need for Casa Multisig. And you'll see once I select that, that we get this public key here. And even though it doesn't start with YPub, if we put that into Sparow, so we can paste that in there, and if we click this button here, it'll convert it to a YPub, and we can see that that is the same one that we have in the Casa app. So we got the master fingerprint from the standard multi-sig export file from the Keystone, we got the derivation path from the sovereign recovery, and we used the master extended public key for the Keystone with Ian Coleman's BIP39 tool and this derivation path here to get the correct extended public key. We're going to do basically the same process for our Coldcard, and we can see all the information here is the same now as what is in the app. So we'll just say apply, and look, I won't worry about a wallet password, and here is our wallet. So if I go into receive now in Sparrow and I have this address here, I should get the same address if I've done everything correctly in the Casa app. And I do, so that's fantastic. So we now have the same wallet in Sparrow as we have in the Casa app. And the great thing about this is we can actually use these two different wallets interchangeably. We can use them at the same time and our transactions will stay in sync between them. If we have to do a private key rotation on the Casa wallet, we would obviously have to recreate the wallet that we have made in Sparrow. But the great thing here is that you can practice the sovereign recovery process without risking any of the funds in your account, without compromising its security, and having the added bonus of being able to increase the security of your wallet through being able to verify the addresses outside of just the Casa app. One of the other really powerful things with this is because Casa uses PSBT files for their unsigned transactions, you can actually just use Sparrow to open any of the unsigned transactions that you download, for a Coldcard or a Keystone, and you can actually just sign them in Sparrow, using any of the hardware wallets that Sparrow supports, even those not directly supported by Casa, and I'll demonstrate this a bit later, signing with a keep key. The other great thing about having a majority of the keys, you can actually operate your account without using their Casa app or platform at all. So let's just send a transaction with Sparrow. So basically I've just got the watch-only wallets plus some other devices. So they've got the Trezor, the Keystone, and I've actually swapped out the Coldcard for a keep key, but it's running the same private keys as the Coldcard, so it should just work. If you're curious about how that works, you can watch this video where I talk about cloning hardware wallets here. So let's send some funds. We'll send max. Just leave the fees as they are. Create transaction. All right, let's do it. So we've said finalize, so let's show QR. So we'll do it on the Keystone first. Okay, so we're just going to go in through the Casa menu. We're going to scan QR code. We'll just scan the one from Sparrow. Just having a think about it. There we go. So we will sign that transaction. There we go, that's signed. So we'll show that back to Sparrow. Okay, so we've signed it with the Keystone. Let's see, we'll just sign it with the Trezor. Yep. That worked. Now, moment of truth. Let's see if we can sign this with the keep key. So we'll say sign. Let's rescan. Oh, there we go. Yep, that's what we want to do. The right address. So we'll confirm that. Yep. There we go. So we've actually signed the transaction now. So we've created and signed the transaction using Sparrow. So if I say broadcast over here, it'll probably pick this up in the Casa app over here as well. There we go. My watch-only wallet for the watch-only wallet that I had created in Electrum has picked up the transaction. Let's see how long it takes to appear in here. Oh, there we go. So that balance has dropped to 0 now. So it has been reflected in the Casa wallet. All right, so I'll send some funds to this wallet and then we'll see if we're able to save this multi-sig wallet onto both the Coldcard and the Keystone so that we can not only have software wallets that are telling us the addresses are correct, but we can actually verify that in our hardware wallets themselves. And this is especially worthwhile on the Coldcard in that it will allow us to sign Casa transactions on the Coldcard without having to set our Coldcard to just trust PSBT files, which is actually a downgrade of the security of our Coldcard. But before we can do that, we'll just need to put in a fingerprint for the recovery key because we just left that as zeros earlier in this video. Unsigned transactions from Casa for the Coldcard actually include all of the fingerprints and extended public keys that you need to reconstruct your wallets. Even if you don't have a Coldcard, you might consider downloading one of those PSBT files and just keeping a digital copy of that somewhere. Though to be really clear, if you're doing manual backups, you'll need to do them again if you do a key rotation. So basically what we're going to do in Sparrow is we're going to say File, Open Transaction from File. We'll just go onto the memory card, and this was the transaction here. So we're going to open that up. Now, what we're looking at is if we click onto the inputs, we can actually see the information for all of the different signers that are in this wallet. And you'll notice that the prefix for that information there is the fingerprint that we want. And these different fingerprints actually correspond to our other signers. And if we go into settings, over here, we can actually find which ones they all match. So there we go. We can see that one ending with 125 corresponds to this public key here. And one of these is actually going to be missing. So let's see, this one ending with 665. There we go. that is the Trezor. So pub key 3 ends with 6D0. Let's see, is that... Oh, that's the one. Okay, so basically, this one here, this signature is actually not present in any of our other wallets. So we just need to transcribe this fingerprint from here back into our key set, and then the Coldcard will should happily accept the transaction. C 902 T6 D0. And these other ones, I'll just double check, they'll all be for our other ones. So that one ending with C7F is going to be the Keystone. Oh, there we go, that's the Keystone. And this one here ending with 915 is going to be the Coldcard because there's nothing else left. Okay, so this here is the fingerprint for the recovery key. So we'll paste that in there and we'll say apply. We won't worry about changing the password for our wallet. It'll resynchronize and it'll find the transactions we had before because nothing has actually really changed. So firstly, let's export this for a Coldcard. And we'll just stick that on the memory card. And let's see if we can just import this directly onto the Keystone. So let's see, import Multi-Sig wallet. We'll say scan. All right, so this is all of our signers. So let's just say confirm. Continue importing, import fail. Oh, bummer. Okay, so now it just has a place. Let's see if this works. So we'll go into settings. We'll go into Multi-Sig wallets. Let's import from SD. Now it's going to be this file here. That's the one that I had. Casa 305 rotation 2. Let's see. Create new Multi-Sig wallet. There we go. Okay, so we can now go into the address explorer. And if we hit receive on here now, we can actually see that we've got the next address that is the same in the Casa app. So this is great. So hardware verification of receive addresses. And the key takeaway from this is if you are using Casa and you are planning to receive a large Bitcoin transaction, it is worth at least verifying that receive address in more than one place, you know, the Casa app plus another wallet. But the security of your Casa wallet can be significantly increased by using a Coldcard as one of the devices that you might have in your home and have access to that allows you to verify these receive addresses on the hardware device itself. Now the thing is that your Coldcard can operate in a few ways with Multi-Sig wallets. Firstly, it can verify only, and meaning that it will only sign transactions that are part of Multi-Sig wallets that it has already saved to it. So if you went through the process of recreating your Casa wallet in Sparrow and importing it into your Coldcard, you can get away with having this option signed. The one that Casa recommend you use here is Trust PSBT, meaning the Coldcard will happily sign transactions from Multi-Sig wallets without checking. The thing actually that can be a little bit dangerous and confusing with Casa is if you use the offer import function, in that when you do that, if you import the PSBT file from one of the Casa transactions, it's helpful in that it will make sure your Coldcard only signs transactions from that specific wallet, but it's actually quite dangerous in that if you go into the address explorer and select the one that was imported directly from the PSBT file from Casa, it actually gives you completely wrong addresses. So basically the issue is here in the script type, in that if you import the Multi-Sig wallet directly from the PSBT file on your Coldcard, it will actually import it as a legacy account type. And generate a whole different set of addresses. If you are in a situation where you accidentally send funds to the legacy account type, it's actually quite straightforward just to create the Multi-Sig wallet in Sparow, except with the P2SH type. And you'll find that once you do that, all of the receive addresses will be the same ones that the Coldcard was generating when we just import from the PSBT file. So if you do happen to make that mistake, it is a straightforward recovery. Now, there's a little bit of a catch when it comes to the Coldcard. If Casa's systems were doing exactly what you would expect based on the recovery information and based on the documentation, we could take an unsigned transaction from Casa, we could simply sign it with the Coldcard using the exported wallet that we had exported from Sparrow. However, there's actually either a bit of a glitch in how Casa have implemented this, or they've just chosen to do it differently, whereby the derivation path for the recovery key is not the same as what is in the documentation. Basically, in the unsigned transactions you get from Casa, the derivation path for the recovery key is always this one here, ending with a 0, regardless of how many times you have rotated your account. Meaning that if you try and take an unsigned transaction directly from Casa and try and sign it using your Coldcard that has that registered Multi-Sig account, it will not recognize it. And the only way you'll be able to sign the transaction is by turning your Coldcard onto Trust PSBT mode, the default that Casa suggests. So the confusing thing is that reconstructing the wallet and just exporting the transaction straight onto it will work for the first wallet in your Casa account, but as soon as you do a key rotation, it'll start to mess up. That said, if you do have a Coldcard and are happy to edit a file and just be really aware of what I mentioned earlier in this video about the script type for Coldcard wallets, you can just import the PSBT file, any unsigned PSBT file for a Coldcard, and you can then see that when you do that, it actually gives you the correct derivation of fingerprint for the recovery key automatically. But what you need to do is, if you want to actually use this on your Coldcard and get the correct addresses, you need to essentially export that wallet from your Coldcard as a text file. You need to open it up and you need to add in this line here. This is just one from the Sparrow wallet that I created earlier. And basically, you'll notice it's missing from the Coldcard export, and that's why you get the wrong addresses, as I demoed earlier. So if you just put that line in, the format line, and then save that, what you now have is a file you can import directly onto your Coldcard. This was created directly from the PSBT file, so no messing around with fingerprints or public keys or anything like that. It has the derivation paths correctly in there, and then once you import this onto your Coldcard, you'll be able to do all of your address verification on your Coldcard. You'll be able to sign transactions directly from Sparrow, and you'll be able to sign transactions directly from Casa without having to downgrade your security and turn on Trust PSBT. So there you go. I hope that helps you to understand more of what's going on behind the scenes with the Casa product. And if you're someone who's wanting to get started with Multi-Sig and have never done it before, I think a really good place to start is to start with a free Casa Gold membership that's free for 30 days to create your Multi-Sig wallet in there. And only after you've played around, where you've reconstructed the wallet, where you've really understood how this all goes together, how to do your backups, how to do all this stuff securely, only then do you consider going onto a full DIY Multi-Sig solution. That said, for $120 a year, just keeping the Casa Gold subscription is also a fantastic option. It definitely simplifies a lot of the things that are complex and irritating with Multi-Sig, even simple stuff like having to, pass around signed transactions, as well as giving you that extra layer of backups and support in terms of having it all integrated nicely in their app. If you think Casa would be helpful to boost your security, I've got a referral link in the description which can help me out in the process, as well as get yourself a bit of a discount at the same time. Likewise, if you're looking to move to a 2 of 3 multi-sig setup and want to purchase an additional hardware wallet, there are affiliate links for those in the description as well. If you've got any questions about their service or any feedback from your experience using it, definitely just leave something in the comments. I do my best to reply to everything. Thanks for watching, I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.